Welcome to ShutterMongers, where we explore the fascinating history, lore, and mysteries of the wizarding world. In today's video, we'll be uncovering the complete story of Ilvermorny, from its humble beginnings to the grand school of magic it is today. Tucked away atop Mount Greylock in Massachusetts, Ilvermorny's origins are woven with courage, survival, and a dream that defied the odds. Founded in the 17th century, this school was born from the journey of a young Irish witch, Isolt Sayre, who fled a dark past and built something extraordinary in the New World. But how did Ilvermorny grow from a small home into a magnificent castle? Who were its four founders, and what inspired the houses of Ilvermorny? What became of Isolt Sayre, James Steward, and their children? And how did Ilvermorny evolve over the centuries to become one of the greatest magical institutions in the world? From its founding story to its traditions, sorting ceremony, and the fate of its founders, we're covering everything about Ilvermorny, past and present. So grab your wands and let's step back in time to discover the origins of America's magical school. Let us take you back to where it all began, with a young Irish witch named Isolt Sayre. Born around 1603 in the valley of Cwmlwgra, County Kerry, Ireland, Isolt Sayre was the daughter of William Sayre and Rhonach Sayre, both belonging to pure-blood wizarding lineages. Her father, William, traced his heritage to the legendary Irish witch Morrigan, an animagus who could transform into a crow. Her mother, Rhonach, descended from the infamous Gaunt family, a direct bloodline of Salazar Slytherin, making Isolt a descendant of two powerful magical families. Despite the Gaunt family's notorious reputation for dark magic and obsession with blood purity, Rhonach and William believed in kindness and cooperation with their Muggle neighbors. The Sayres lived in a modest yet magical home known as Ilvermorny, a name that would later find new meaning in the New World. This home was a beacon of hospitality, welcoming both wizards and Muggles in need, healing the sick and providing assistance in secret. Isolt's childhood was filled with warmth, adventure, and magic. She often roamed the verdant Irish countryside, befriending magical creatures and learning wand work from her parents. Her father affectionately nicknamed her Morrigan due to her strong affinity for nature and her love of crows, which often followed her as she played. However, their kindness attracted the ire of Rhonach's estranged sister, Gormlaith Gaunt, who saw their acceptance of Muggles as a betrayal of pure blood values. Gormlaith, a fanatical adherent of Salazar Slytherin's ideals, believed that Isolt was being corrupted by her parents and plotted to reclaim her bloodline's legacy. One fateful night, tragedy struck. Gormlaith attacked the Sayre household in a fiery assault, wielding dark magic beyond imagination. She set the house ablaze with cursed fire, ensuring there was no escape for William and Rhonach. The couple perished, fighting valiantly to protect their daughter. 5-year-old Isolt, terrified and helpless, was rescued, or rather, kidnapped, by Gormlaith, who took her to a secluded valley known as Hag's Glen. Isolt's new life was one of isolation and oppression. Gormlaith, cruel and domineering, prohibited Isolt from practicing magic freely and ensured she remained under strict control. Hogwarts, the school Isolt longed to attend, was portrayed as a breeding ground for unworthy wizards, mudbloods, who defiled the purity of magic. Any contact with the outside world was forbidden. Over the years, Gormlaith forced Isolt to watch as she cursed and hexed any Muggle or creature that came near their cottage. The once joyful child grew into a fearful, yet quietly defiant young woman. Her only solace came from the stolen whispers of Hogwarts' legacy, as Gormlaith often ranted about the school and its founders. Isolt clung to these stories, dreaming of a different life. After years of torment, Isolt realized she would never be free under Gormlaith's control. One fateful night, she stole her aunt's wand, her only chance to break free of the spells that bound her. To evade capture, she cut her hair short, dressed in ragged Muggle clothing, and took on the identity of Elias Story, a boy orphaned by sickness. Under this guise, she fled to England, hiding among the crowds and avoiding detection by any magical means that could track her. Her escape led her onto the Mayflower, where she hoped to disappear among the English settlers bound for the New World. The voyage was perilous. Stormy seas, illness, and suspicion surrounded her. Isolt remained silent, wary of the deeply religious Puritans who condemned anything supernatural as the work of the devil. Her disguise allowed her to go unnoticed, though she was constantly fearful of being discovered. Upon reaching America, Isolt vanished into the forests of Massachusetts, believing herself to be the only witch in the new land. The solitude was overwhelming and the wilderness unforgiving. She foraged for food, built crude shelters, and spent weeks alone, surviving on instinct and fear. It was during this time that she had her first encounter with an unknown American magical creature, the Hide-Behind, a nocturnal predator known to disembowel its victims. One evening, she stumbled upon a terrible scene. A Hide-Behind had captured a wounded Pukwudgie and was preparing to feast. Without hesitation, she raised her stolen wand and unleashed a powerful curse, driving the beast back into the shadows. Unbeknownst to her, this act of bravery would alter the course of her destiny. Oblivious to the Pukwudgie's notorious reputation for hostility toward humans, Sayre took him to her shelter and tended to his wounds with care. Despite his deep-seated distrust of humans, the Pukwudgie could not ignore his newfound debt to Isolt. Mortified by his dependence, he begrudgingly vowed to remain by her side until he could settle his obligation. Adhering to the customs of his kind, he refused to disclose his true name. Undeterred, Sayre christened him William in honor of her late father. As they journeyed together, William introduced Isolt to the magical creatures of North America. They watched as hodags stalked their prey, battled a ferocious snallygaster that nearly overpowered them, and marveled at the playful antics of newborn Wampus kittens in the dawn light. One fateful day, she came across a shimmering creek where a great horned serpent dwelled. Though William feared the creature, it regarded Isolt with curiosity. Even more astonishing, Isolt could understand what it was saying. A descendant of Salazar Slytherin, she had inherited the rare gift of Parseltongue. Though she had never realized it before, the serpent spoke in riddles, repeating a cryptic message. Until I am part of your family is doomed. But Isolt paid little mind to its words. To her, she had no real family left. Her parents were gone, and she wanted nothing to do with the only relative she had left, her cruel Aunt Gormlaith. One day, while foraging in the woods, Isolt and William heard a terrible noise not far from their shelter. William, sensing danger, barked at Isolt to stay put before grabbing his poisoned arrow and darting through the trees. Ignoring his command, Isolt rushed after him and stumbled upon a gruesome sight. A Hide-Behind, the same creature that had once nearly killed William, had attacked a wizarding family. The parents lay lifeless on the ground, while two young boys were gravely injured, barely clinging to life. Realizing they had no time to lose, Isolt and William worked together, using powerful magic and sharp precision to take down the beast. The Hide-Behind fell, but the damage had already been done. The two boys, Chadwick and Webster Boot, were barely alive. As Isolt knelt beside the boys, trying to assess their wounds, she turned to William for assistance. To her shock, he refused, claiming the children were already as good as dead. Furious at his callousness, she demanded that he help carry them back to safety, declaring that she would consider it repayment for saving his life. With great reluctance, William agreed. Isolt carried the younger brother, Webster, while William carried Chadwick. The journey back to their shelter was long and arduous, but Isolt refused to give up. As soon as they got back to the shelter, a furious Isolt told William that she no longer needed him. William glared at her, then vanished. The boys that Isolt and William rescued survived the attack and, much to her delight and astonishment, were wizards. However, Chadwick and Webster were so ill for the next couple of weeks that Isolt hardly left them alone. She was troubled by the fact that, in her haste to rescue the boys, she had been unable to give their parents a burial. So when the boys were well enough to be left alone for a few hours, she returned to the forest with the intention of marking graves for their parents. To her surprise, she was not alone. A man, James Steward, was already there, carefully marking the graves she had intended to make herself. He was also from the Plymouth settlement, where he had befriended the Boot family. When he couldn't find them one evening, he decided to search for them in the woods. She watched as he picked up the 2 broken wands left beside the fallen parents. Curious about the dragon heartstring protruding from one of them, he gave it a casual wave. The reaction was immediate. Magic surged wildly from the damaged wand, hurling James backward into a tree and rendering him unconscious. Though she did not know who he was, Isolt could not leave him in the wilderness. She carried him back to her shelter, where he eventually awoke to unfamiliar surroundings. In the small, confined space where she cared for the Boot boys, Isolt could not hide her magic from him. James soon realized that his rescuer was unlike anyone he had met before. Many times, Isolt considered obliviating him, wiping away all memories of her magic to keep their world a secret. It would be the safer choice, perhaps the only choice. But each time she raised her wand, she hesitated. There was something about the way James looked at her, not with fear, but with quiet curiosity. Something about the way he spoke gently to the boys, the way he showed kindness without expectation. In the end, she could not bring herself to erase his memories, even though she knew the risk. As James spent more time with Isolt and the boys, his initial fear of magic began to fade. The more he learned about their world, the more he admired the resilience and kindness of the woman who had saved his life. Over time, their bond deepened, and they both came to a quiet realization: they were in love. Before long, Isolt and James were married, officially adopting Chadwick and Webster as their own. With their growing family in need of a home, James designed a stone house, and Isolt magically brought it into existence. She named it Ilvermorny, honoring the home she had lost in Ireland. Their simple home soon became a place of learning as Isolt shared stories of Hogwarts with Chadwick and Webster. The boys, enchanted by the idea of a magical school, longed to journey to Europe and receive their letters, but Isolt, fearing Gormlaith's wrath, chose not to reveal the real reason they could not return. Instead, she promised them something even better, a school of their own, right there at Ilvermorny. As Chadwick's 11th birthday approached, Isolt found herself troubled by a promise she had made, to provide him with a wand. She believed that the only wand in America was the one she had stolen from her aunt, and she had no idea how to craft another. The night before his birthday, Isolt had a vivid dream in which she stood by the horned Serpent's creek. The great serpent emerged from the water, bowed its head, and allowed her to shave a long shard from its horn. Upon waking, she knew what she had to do. Making her way to the creek, she found the horned serpent waiting, just as in her dream. The creature raised its head, and with quiet reverence, Isolt carefully removed a shard of its horn before expressing her gratitude and returning to the cottage. With James's skill in crafting and stone carving, they fashioned a wand from the horned serpent's gift. When it was complete, they knew they had created something extraordinary, a wand of remarkable power. By the time Webster turned 11, word of the Steward family's magical home had spread. Soon their small refuge became a place of learning. 2 boys from the Wampanoag tribe arrived, followed by a mother and her 2 daughters from the Narragansett tribe. Each received a wand, handcrafted by Isolt and James, though they experimented with different wand cores, including wampus hair, snallygaster heartstring, and jackalope antlers. Isolt kept the rare and powerful horned serpent cores solely for her own sons, guided by an instinct to protect their magical lineage. By 1634, Ilvermorny had grown significantly. Each year, new students arrived, and the school expanded to accommodate them. What had begun as a small family refuge had now become a thriving school of magic. When it came time to divide the school into houses, the family looked to their surroundings for inspiration. Instead of naming them after wizards, they chose the magical creatures they had come to know. For Chadwick, the fierce and powerful Thunderbird. For Webster, the fast and loyal Wampus. For James, after much debate, the stubborn yet wise Pukwudgie. And for Isolt, the enigmatic and intelligent horned serpent she still visited in the nearby creek. With that decision, the foundation for Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was set. As their family grew, so too did their vision. Isolt and James had 2 daughters of their own, Rhiannach, named after Isolt's late mother, and Martha, in honor of James's. With its growing reputation, Ilvermorny was no longer just a dream. It had become a beacon of magical education in the new world. For a time, Ilvermorny functioned solely as a day school, with James, Isolt, and their family as its only permanent residents, unaware that their greatest threat had not been left behind in Ireland. Word of the school's success had traveled farther than they could have imagined, reaching the ears of none other than Gormlaith Gaunt, Isolt's ruthless aunt. The woman Isolt had fled from all those years ago had not forgotten her treachery. Around 1634, Gormlaith Gaunt made a chilling discovery. A headmistress of a new magical school in the New World was known by the nickname Morrigan. Instantly, she recalled that her niece, Isolt Sayre, had been given the same name by her father, a nod to their ancestry linked to the legendary Morrigan. The revelation unsettled her, but what confirmed her worst fears was the name of the school, Ilvermorny. This was the very same name of the cottage in Ireland where Isolt had been born, the home Gormlaith had burned to the ground years ago. Her fury deepened when she learned of Isolt's marriage to a muggle, James Steward, an act of ultimate betrayal in Gormlaith's eyes. Even worse, Ilvermorny welcomed all magical children regardless of blood status, violating the very beliefs that Gormlaith held sacred. Determined to end Isolt's defiance once and for all, Gormlaith reluctantly visited Ollivander's, a wand shop she despised. There she acquired a new wand with a dragon heartstring core. Armed and ready, she boarded the ship Bonaventure, disguising herself as a man under the name William Sayre, a twisted choice, as it was both the name of Isolt's father and a person Gormlaith had murdered. Upon landing in Virginia, Gormlaith made her way north in the dead of winter, heading toward Mount Greylock, Massachusetts, where Ilvermorny stood. Her mission was clear: to kill Isolt and James, and to abduct their young twin daughters, Martha and Rhiannach. She intended to raise them in her image, shaping them into the heirs of her twisted ideology, the destiny she had once envisioned for Isolt. Under the cover of darkness, Gormlaith cast a powerful curse from a distance, speaking the names Isolt and James, placing them into a deep, enchanted sleep. She then spoke Parseltongue, activating an ancient enchantment that rendered Isolt's wand, once Gormlaith's own, completely useless. But Gormlaith had miscalculated. Unbeknownst to her, Ilvermorny was also home to 2 skilled young wizards, Isolt's adopted sons, Chadwick and Webster Boot, aged 16 and 14. Their wands, crafted from horned serpent horn, reacted violently to the Parseltongue incantation, sensing danger and awakening their wielders. The brothers instantly understood what was happening. The nightmare Chadwick had long feared had come true. Without hesitation, he seized his wand and rushed out into the cold night to confront the dark witch, while Webster desperately tried to awaken their parents. Gormlaith severely underestimated Chadwick when their duel began. Though she was undeniably more powerful, Chadwick had been trained well by Isolt, who had passed on the very defensive skills she once used to escape her aunt. Confident in her superiority, Gormlaith initially refrained from killing him, not out of mercy, but curiosity. She believed his skill was too great for him to be anything but a pureblood, and she demanded to know his lineage. If he were of pure descent, she claimed, she would spare him. After all, he had potential. But Chadwick remained silent, refusing to dignify her with an answer. Before long, unable to break the spell, Webster ultimately joined Chadwick in the duel. and together the brothers harnessed the full power of their wands. Because both wands contained horned serpent horn cores, their magic resonated and strengthened each other, giving them a greater edge against Gormlaith than she had expected. As the duel raged on, the commotion woke young Martha and Rhiannoc Steward. Terrified, they cried out for their parents. Gormlaith, who had spent her life wielding fear and cruelty, had no understanding of love. She failed to anticipate that, in its purest form, love could overpower even the darkest enchantments. The cries of the twins shattered the spell she had cast upon Isolt and James, breaking through the deep slumber that had imprisoned them. With renewed urgency, Isolt joined the battle, but the wand she had taken up, Salazar Slytherin's wand, now bound to Gormlaith's will, remained lifeless in her hand. Seeing their resistance as a final insult, Gormlaith forced them back inside Ilvermorny, driving them up the stairs toward the room where she could hear her great nieces crying. When she finally broke down the door, she found James standing between her and the twins, his arms spread protectively. With her wand raised, she prepared to strike him down, but before she could, Isolt cried out a single name, her father's, William. The air shimmered, and in an instant, her old ally, William the Pukwudgie, appeared. Without hesitation, he let loose a single poisoned arrow, striking Gormlaith in the heart. The venom reacted violently with the protective dark magic woven into her being, causing her to disintegrate into nothing but dust and a broken wand, of which only fragments of its core remained. A stunned silence filled the room. Isolt turned to William, her old companion, the guardian she had long abandoned. Overcome with gratitude, she stepped forward to thank him, but William only folded his arms and huffed. "Took you long enough to call my name." Despite his grumbling, William never left Ilvermorny again. He moved into the castle, becoming its guardian. Though Gormlaith was gone, the dark magic she had placed upon the wand remained. Isolt was unable to undo the spell binding the wand to her aunt's will. Rather than keep the cursed object, the last remnant of Isolt's painful past, she and James chose to bury it deep within the school grounds. Within a year, a snakewood tree sprouted from the burial site. It grew tall and strong, refusing to be cut down or pruned. Eventually, the school discovered that the tree possessed powerful medicinal properties, as if it had been reborn as something pure, a final defiance against Gormlaith's darkness. With Gormlaith's threat vanquished, Ilvermorny's reputation flourished. More and more students arrived, and by the 18th century, the granite house expanded into a mighty castle, with additional teachers brought in to accommodate the steadily increasing student population. By this time, the school had transitioned into a full-fledged boarding institution. Its reputation had grown to match that of other esteemed magical schools, and to ensure its secrecy, the founders employed ingenious enchantments, one of which disguised the castle as a misty cloud to any no-mage who happened to pass by. Isolt and James, having built something greater than they had ever imagined, remained headmistress and headmaster for many years. The school's blue and cranberry robes were a tribute to their past, blue for Isolt's childhood dream of being a Ravenclaw, and cranberry chosen by James. The golden Gordian knot fastened to each robe served as a reminder of the brooch that once lay in the ruins of the original Ilvermorny cottage. At the start of their education at Ilvermorny, new students underwent the sorting ceremony in the grand entrance hall. They would step onto a Gordian knot carved into the floor, positioned at the center of the chamber, while 4 large wooden statues, each representing one of Ilvermorny's houses, stood facing them. The carvings would animate in response if they wished to claim the student for their house. The horned serpent carving's crystal forehead would glow. The Wampus carving would let out a mighty roar. The Thunderbird carving would flap its wings. The Pukwudgie carving would raise its arrow. Older students observed the ceremony in silence from a circular balcony above, watching as the new arrivals were chosen. Occasionally, more than one house would attempt to claim the same student. When this occurred, the student was given the rare privilege of choosing their house. In even rarer cases, as seldom as once in a decade or even a generation, a student would be chosen by all 4 houses. One of the most notable individuals to receive this honor was Seraphina Picquery, later president of MACUSA, 1920 to 1928, who ultimately chose Horned Serpent. Following the sorting, students were escorted to a large hall where they underwent a second selection, this time to receive their wand. Before the repeal of Rappaport's law, a strict 18th century regulation that enforced complete separation between the magical and no-mag communities in America, students were forbidden from owning or carrying a wand before arriving at Ilvermorny. Additionally, they were required to leave their wands at school during breaks and could only take them outside of school upon reaching the age of 17, unlike Hogwarts. By the 19th century, Ilvermorny had gained international recognition for its excellence in magical education. By the 1920s, after nearly 3 centuries of growth and success, the school had solidified its reputation as one of the greatest magical institutions in the world. As a result of their shared education and rigorous training, all witches and wizards who attended Ilvermorny became highly skilled in wand work. Chadwick went on to become a highly skilled and well-traveled wizard, renowned for his expertise in magic. He authored Chadwick's Charms, volumes 1 to 7, a series of spellbooks that became essential reading at Ilvermorny. He later married Josefina Calderon, a talented Mexican healer, and together they established the Calderon Boot lineage, which remains one of the most distinguished wizarding families in America to this day. Webster later became what would now be considered a freelance auror, specializing in the capture of dark wizards. During one such mission, while escorting a particularly dangerous dark wizard back to London, he crossed paths with a young Scottish witch working at the Ministry of Magic. The two fell in love, and Webster eventually settled in Britain with her. His descendants would go on to attend Hogwarts, continuing their magical legacy in the British wizarding world. Martha, the eldest of Isolt Sayre and James Steward's twin daughters, was born a squib. Though she was deeply cherished by her parents and brothers, growing up at Ilvermorny, a school dedicated to magic, was a painful experience for her, as she was unable to perform magic herself. In adulthood, she married the no-mage brother of a close friend from the Pukwudgie tribe and chose to fully integrate into his community, embracing life as a no-mage. Rhiannon became one of Ilvermorny's earliest professors of defense against the dark arts, dedicating her life to teaching and protecting future generations. She chose never to marry or have children, believing it her duty to end the Slytherin and Gaunt bloodlines and prevent their dark legacy from continuing. However, her efforts, though noble, ultimately proved in vain. Unbeknownst to her, Gormlaith had not been the last of the Gaunts in England. The lineage endured, eventually leading to Marvolo Gaunt, his children Morfinn and Marape, and his infamous grandson, Tom Marvolo Riddle. Isolt Sayre and James Steward lived long, fulfilling lives, witnessing their modest stone cottage grow into a grand castle and their vision of a welcoming, inclusive school come to life. Their legacy lives on through the countless witches and wizards who have walked Ilvermorny's halls, each carrying forward their spirit of openness, courage, and equality. Even after their passing, Ilvermorny remains a beacon of magic and learning. The Pukwudgies, ever loyal to the school, continue to watch over and maintain it, ensuring its traditions endure. Among them, a Pukwudgie named William, believed to be the same one who once aided Isolt, still stands guard over her statue. Every year he visits her grave, leaving mayflowers as a tribute to the friend he never forgot. Ilvermorny stands as a testament to the power of love, resilience, and unity, a school born from defiance, shaped by compassion and strengthened by the belief that magic belongs to all who are worthy. From its Irish origins to its American heart, its story continues to inspire generations of witches and wizards across the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Ilvermorny's origins and the legacy of its founders. If you enjoyed this deep dive into magical history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Want to learn about all the magical schools around the world? We've got you covered. Check out our video on all the wizarding schools linked in the description. And if you'd like a deep dive into another magical school, let us know which one in the comments. We might just cover it next.